Hi everyone, welcome to the Tropic Marin channel. My name is Sam Nietzer. I'm a researcher at the University of Oldenburg and the beautiful city of Wilhelmshaven, and also general manager of the recently launched Syreef LLC, which has the aim to produce corals sexually for the aquarium trade. We're now in the new facility that is still being set up, work in progress basically, but we're already producing corals. The corals you can see here in this tank are all made in Germany, different species of different ages. The biggest ones are 3 years old now. There's some that are just a few months old. And in these systems we work to optimize the methods of rearing them to produce beautiful, healthy corals for the aquarium trade. Corals, of course, are fairly sensitive critters that don't like it if the water chemistry is not ideal for them. And water chemistry is also a topic of this video now. In this system we use well-established bulling system to compensate the consumption of our corals. So the corals, as calcifying organisms, they take calcium ions, they take carbonate ions from the water, put them together and create these beautiful skeletons that are basically pure calcium carbonate with a bit of strontium, a bit of magnesium, different things, but mainly calcium carbonate. So the calcium is taken from the water, the carbonate is taken from the water, but they want to have it in a perfect concentration basically. So we have to make up for their consumption, meaning we have to know how much they consume and we have to replace what they take from the water. There's also videos on this channel about the bulling method, about different ways to supply your corals, so feel free to check them out. So for the basic supply, we use the bulling system that gives the macroelements. Macroelements are calcium. Carbonate is not an element per se, but a compound consisting of several atoms, CO3, like carbon and oxygen. Magnesium is a macroelement. We talk about macroelements when they are present in a high concentration, meaning several hundred milligrams per liter, going up to several grams even per liter. If you think about sodium and chloride, these are really in high concentrations in the water. So that gives us the basic consumption for the calcification, but there's also much more that the corals and the microbiome and the other critters need, and that goes into the halogens like fluorine, iodine, bromine, which are among other aspects really important for the immune system of corals and other critters. And then we go into the trace elements, and trace elements are called trace elements because they're present in traces that are really hard to measure, very low concentration. We're in the milligram per liter area, and that is, for instance, the trace metals like zinc, nickel, copper, which are essential in a way that corals, bacteria, basically every living organism that has living cells and produces enzymes needs these metals. Yes, these metals are incorporated into enzymes. You know, these little factories that make proteins that turn compound A into compound B and are super important in many, many aspects of life, basically. They should not be present in too high concentrations because then the essential metal turns into poison, right? It's very important to keep track of these concentrations and to make sure that you're not accumulating certain elements in too high concentrations. And also other elements that are not essential or important for life, basically, like tin, tungsten. These are elements that are toxic, basically heavy metals, mercury, that kind of stuff that you really don't want to have in your system. Usually they are not there, but there's always ways that things can get into tanks, basically. So in order to keep everything stable and running nicely, it's very beneficial to have a good grip on the water chemistry and to know what's in your water. In recent years, the ICP technology has been very popular in the aquarium hobby. ICP stands for inductively coupled plasma, meaning you take a water sample and you blast it through a really high plasma and it's being disintegrated into its individual atoms. So after the disintegration, there's different ways of detecting what atoms are in there. And the most commonly used method is the OES, the optical emissions spectroscopy, meaning if the sample is being disintegrated and ripped into individual atoms, there's light being emitted, and that light is different between individual elements. Let's say magnesium emits a different wavelength than potassium or copper or zinc. Based on these wavelength intensities, you can calculate what's the concentration of the element. A second technology that is being used for the ICP is the MS, the mass spectrometry, which is very sensitive and allows you to go into really, really low concentration, into a nanogram per liter. It's very accurate, but on the other hand, it's not really able to accurately measure the macroelements. So with the ICP OES, you can do both. Tropic Marin just launched the new ICP analysis. We're talking about that in a separate video. With this analysis, you get a very detailed grip on your concentrations of all the elements. If you get your report, maybe not everything is perfect. Maybe there's deficiencies and you should take some actions to make sure your tank has enough of everything it needs. There's a way to supply every element individually, but essentially that means you have 40 different bottles with 40 different elements that you can then apply individually. For the chemistry enthusiast, it's amazing, but I don't think everybody wants to have all these bottles at home and all these different concentrations. So there's a new product line from Tropic Marin that condenses these 40 different elements into just 5 bottles. And that was possible by grouping the elements into functional groups, meaning certain elements are used in a certain ratio to each other because they're used in certain metabolic processes, meaning the halogens plus selenium, like iodine, fluorine, bromine, are used in a certain ratio, meaning if iodine is being consumed at a high rate, the other ones are consumed at a high rate most likely as well. So with that one solution, I can supplement all these elements of that functional group. And the second benefit is that with the ICP, you can get very precise data, but for some elements, the measurement is really hard and it's not as reliable, especially the ones that are present in very, very low concentrations, meaning for these groups, we selected a so-called indicator element, which is an element that can be measured reliably. I can be very certain that the measured concentration is actually what is in the water. So we take the indicator element as the main element here for that functional group. And with that, we're able to supply all these elements in one go. I think it's a really neat system, and it reduces the complexity of the whole water chemistry because now you have everything in 5 bottles, measurements are reliable, and it's easier to make sure everything is available in the right concentrations, the corals are happy, everything is growing, and you have a fantastic tank that will make you happy for many years. So that's the basic concept of the block analysis system. There will be videos about the individual element groups, and we're going to talk about what is every single element doing to give a bit more depth. But that's a topic for another day and a topic for 5 more videos. I think it's enough water chemistry for today. So take care, happy reefing, and see you next time. Bye-bye.